Hey guys, Sterling here, coming at you with another Bleach What If story and discussion, and can we just come together as an anime and manga community and just crown Head Captain Yamamoto as the biggest badass old man in storytelling? Now, we've got some good old man characters in anime and manga. We've got Master Roshi, he trained Son Goku, created the Kamehameha. We've got Jiraiya, Toad Sage, legendary Sannin, Naruto's mentor. But guys, they do not hold a candle, they do not hold a flame to Head Captain Yamamoto. See what I did there? Head Captain Yamamoto is the biggest badass old man character in storytelling, and you can't change my mind. But if you can think of one that comes close, then tell me in the comments below. Now, if you can't tell, guys, our what if story and discussion today is centers all around Head Captain Yamamoto. Specifically, I want to explore and discuss a story in which the head captain doesn't fall to Yhwach in the first invasion. Meaning, what would it look like if Head Captain Yamamoto was still around for the entirety of the 1,000-Year Blood War? How would he interact with Zero Division? How would he go about battling the schutzstaffel? How would he go about powering himself up after getting his bankai stolen? Or how would he even survive in the first place? Guys, this story explores so many aspects of the Head Captain surviving, and I cannot wait to dive into it. So guys, as always, sit back and let me paint you a picture. So our setup for this one is pretty simple. We just need Yamamoto to survive the battle with Yhwach in the first invasion. And this is the most probable way I see that going down. So our location is Sarete, and the first Quincy invasion is drawing to an end. A stunned Yamamoto is frozen in disbelief after a fierce battle with what was virtually an 80% copy of Yhwach. The real Quincy Messiah has revealed himself and stolen the most honed, the most destructive, and the most fierce bankai in the history of Sarete. Uncharacteristically, the head captain seems to have accepted his defeat when out of nowhere, a voice cuts through the rain. "Come on, old man, you're not done yet. I thought you were head captain. I know it's against your tradition, but fight with me. Fight with me to save Soul Society." Alright guys, I have to cut in because this is beyond exciting. None other than substitute Shinigami Ichigo Kurosaki has escaped Quilge's jail a little bit earlier than he did in the actual story and has come to aid Head Captain Yamamoto in his battle with Yhwach. Guys, just when things were looking absolutely bleak for the head captain, Ichigo has arrived, and now Head Captain Yamamoto, with the power of his Shikai and a full-brain Bankai Ichigo, are now going to attempt to take Yhwach down. Now guys, when I talk about animating certain battles later on in the future, this is one I would absolutely love to see. We'd have Head Captain Yamamoto and his spirits would be boosted now that Ichigo's there. Now, he'd be obviously hesitant usually to work with Ichigo, but in this case, the straits are dire and him and Ichigo are attempting to take Yhwach down. Now, like I said, this battle would be an absolute spectacle. They'd be flash stepping around the battlefield, doing their best to try to take down Yhwach, but it would, obviously, it's Yhwach, guys. So Yhwach, at this point, he's like, all right, Genryusai, I'm going to finish you. And he pulls out bankai, guys. He uses Head Captain Yamamoto's bankai, something that we didn't get to see in the story. Now, when Yhwach stole Yama's bankai, I thought we'd see it later on in the story, but we never did. So in this hypothetical, battling against Yama and Ichigo, Yhwach uses Yamamoto's bankai, and so he's like, Genryusai, I will take you out with your own bankai, and he goes to launch a massive attack at Ichigo and Yamamoto. And guys, this is where things get a little bit interesting. We'd have Yamamoto, he'd jump in front of this massive attack to try to save Ichigo, and he would attempt to block it with his Shikai. Now, guys, at this point, Yhwach is launching a massive attack using the bankai, and it's almost fatal, all right? Everyone thinks that Head Captain Yamamoto is done for, completely disintegrated. Even Yhwach's like, you fool, like, you've gotten weak. I told you that you had gotten soft. Like, it's people like Ichigo, it's people like the humans that changed you, Genryusai. Like, everyone would think Yamamoto is done for. Yhwach thinks he's done for. Ichigo thinks he's done for. Now, you guys are like, Sterling, I thought this was what if Yamamoto survived. Now, guys, this is how I see it happening. Now, Yhwach would begin to realize that he's running out of time, just like in the normal story. He'd say to Hashwolf, like, did you know this? And Hashwolf would say, yes, sir, all of that. Aizen manipulated time with his illusion technique, and so Yhwach's running out of time. And so Ichigo still gets his sword broken by Hashwolf. All that happens. Yhwach leaves. Hashwolf leaves, and Ichigo's standing there thinking, like, my sword's broken, Yamamoto's gone, but then just faintly he would sense Yamamoto's spiritual pressure, and guys, what happened was Yamamoto was able to deflect the attack from his bankai that Yhwach launched with his shikai. He was able to negate it just enough to where everyone thought he was completely disintegrated, but he was able to save Ichigo, kind of negate the attack just a little bit. Now, he still took a ton of damage. He's on the brink of death, but he survived this battle. Yhwach's gone. The Quincy army has went back into the shadows, and now they can kind of lick their wounds. But what we have here is a Head Captain Yamamoto that did survive. He's just in terrible shape, and now the Soul Society is just sitting back kind of like, man, what just happened? But the good thing is that yes, Head Captain Yamamoto survived the battle with the real Yhwach. With all the Quincy out of Sarete and the first invasion ending, we can transition into the point of the hypothetical where things really begin to change, where we can really explore the effects of Head Captain Yamamoto surviving into this point of the story. Now, obviously, everything with Zero Division coming down stays the same. So at this point, Yamamoto is healed up, and Kuraku has not become the new head captain. Yamamoto remains head captain, and Zero Division comes down. Now, I do think the interactions between Yama and Ichibei would be very interesting. Now, you have to understand that Yamamoto, he takes sole responsibility for Sarete. So there wouldn't be any pointing fingers. He wouldn't be like, why didn't you come down? Like, Sarete was his baby. He was to protect it. And obviously he failed in the first invasion to an extent. But in this hypothetical, he survives. Now, I do think the conversation between Ichibei and Yamamoto would be extremely interesting. They're two extremely old Shinigami. I just think it would be really fun. Tell me in the comments, how do you think that conversation would go? Now, as far as Ichigo, Rukia, Renji, Byakuya, they still go to the Royal Palace for their training. Now, before Ichigo leaves, now guys, this is going to be a big part of the what if. What I believe Yamamoto would do is he would swallow his pride. Like, at some point, he'd be talking to Kuraku, like maybe we'd get a little, not time skip, but we'd look back at a conversation between Yama and Kuraku, directly after the first Quincy invasion, and he'd be saying, like, Kuraku, like, I have to find a way to get stronger, like, even 1,000 years hasn't been enough, like, without my arm, I just cannot take down Yhwach. So this is the point in the hypothetical where I believe that he would tell Ichigo, can you call your friend? Call Orihime. I think it's time that I heal my arm. And guys, this would be absolutely incredible because Headcap, you have to realize how important your hands are when you're a Shinigami. Your wrists are extreme outputs for spiritual pressure. And when Yamamoto lost his arm, even Yhwach said it. He said, if you would have healed your arm, I may have even put you on the war potential list. So I think in this hypothetical, Yamamoto, he swallows his pride, and he has Orihime heal his arm. Now, guys, what do you think about this twist? I think it's absolutely incredible, and I do think it's actually probable. A lot of you may be saying, like, Sterling, Yamamoto wouldn't. Well, guys, in this hypothetical, if he were to survive, he just had a battle with Yhwach, and him and Ichigo, and, like, Yamamoto's a smart man. He's going to realize, like,
man, that wasn't enough. And so, like I said, he's going to ask Ichigo to contact Orihime, come to Serete, and heal his arm. So going into the second invasion, we'd have a more clear-minded Yamamoto with both his arms and a Shikai and all of his Kido mastery. But that's not where things stop. A lot of changes still happen. And so a big one is Kamamura is still going to be around. Kamamura was all about revenge. He wanted to avenge Yamamoto's death, and so he was willing to throw away his life for a power-up. But in this hypothetical, with Head Captain Yamamoto being alive, getting his arm healed, ready for the next battle, it would motivate Kamamura to the point where he'd be ready to go, but he's not going to sacrifice himself. So Kamamura would be a part of the story going forward. Now, something very interesting that I want to talk about is the Unohana Kenpachi dynamic. Now, we know that Kuraku made the order for Unohana and Kenpachi to go train down in the Mugen. So he made the order to more or less sacrifice Soul Society's healer to power up Kenpachi. Now, I do think that this would still happen in the story, but slightly different. I think Kuraku would tell Yamamoto, like, hey, we need Kenpachi trained up for this. Like, it's going to be worth the sacrifice of Unohana. So I think that's still going to happen, but what I think would be different is I think if this were to happen, we would finally be treated to the story of how Yamamoto and Unohana met. This would be absolutely incredible. We'd flash back and we'd get to see the very moment that Head Captain Yamamoto was forming the Gote and recruited Unohana. I think this would be absolutely incredible. And in this hypothetical, I think we would be treated to something like that.
With the presence of Head Captain Yamamoto and the healing of his arm, the Soul Society is in a much better place than in the original story. Everyone still goes through their little mini training arc where they learn how to fight without their bankai in a more efficient way. Everything still happens as far as that goes. But like I said, the Soul Society, their spirits are up because the Head Captain is still there. He's got his arm healed. You have to realize how just monstrously powerful a Shikai Yamamoto with both arms would be. Now, like I said, Unohana and Kenpachi, they still do their thing, and everyone's preparing this for the second invasion of the Quincy's. Now, that still happens. The Serete shifts, the feudal era Japanese aesthetic completely flips, and you get that Gothic German style architecture, the shadows. Serete's completely enveloped, and the Quincy's have started their second invasion. Now, the second invasion, when the Quincy came in and they flipped everything, they were extremely confident. They were more or less coming in to clean up. Like, they all had that mindset, like, with these bankai stealing medallions, like, they hardly even have a chance. Even Hashwall tells Kuraku in the original story, like, you guys could at least die fighting. But in this hypothetical, like I said, the Soul Society, they're in better spirits. They've got Head Captain Yamamoto, and I believe that he's going to allow Kuraku to be almost a close confidant to him. Obviously, Kuraku's a great strategist, but he's learned everything from Yama. Yama's problem was he just was kind of stuck in his ways, but I think surviving that battle with Yhwach is going to open up Yama's mind, and he's going to kind of have that, well, whatever it takes to win mentality, and he's going to take on the role of obviously commander-in-chief of Serete, and I believe he's going to approach this second invasion much more strategically. It's not going to be like in the first invasion where he's just in a blind rage. He went into that battle with Yhwach a little overconfident. All I'm saying is I think in this second invasion, we're going to see a Yamamoto that's much more strategic. He's not just going to put himself out there. He's going to be almost picky and choosy. You have to remember, this is also a time in the story where the Soul Society kind of starts getting their come up. Obviously, Kisuke arrives with the bankai pill that allows everyone to be able to get their bankai back. Now, that interaction would be kind of funny because Yamamoto's like a hollow pill. Like, he wouldn't like it, but he would eat it because that would allow him to get his bankai back. Now, I'm kind of skipping a little bit. Obviously, battles would be happening. I think at this point, Yamamoto would be in the control room with Mayuri and Kisuke, and that's when he would take the pill. And at this moment, when the bankai start coming back to the Soul Reapers, this is when Yhwach would realize, like, Yamamoto isn't dead, because obviously Yamamoto's bankai would leave Yhwach, and like this is where things would get exciting, because Yamamoto would get his bankai back. He would have both his arms, and guys, this Yamamoto, wow, like incredibly strong. Yamamoto was already the strongest man in Sarete with one arm. So with both his arms and his bankai back, this would be absolutely incredible. So Yama, he's in the control room with Mayuri and Kisuke, and like you just see Yama all of a sudden, like his spiritual pressure would just amp up extremely because his bankai would come back and he would feel it, and he would be ready to go out and start whooping some butt. Now, like I've reiterated many of times in this hypothetical, the Soul Society is in a much better place at this point. They've got Kenpachi coming back with his Shikai available to him, and they've got a Yamamoto with his bankai. Everyone else has their bankai returned to them, and at this point, Yhwach, in my opinion, he would not want to fight Yamamoto without being able to steal his bankai with both arms. Not saying that Yamamoto could take down this Yhwach like 100%, but I think the battle would be absolutely incredible. But for the sake of this what if, we're going to hold off on this battle. What I think Yhwach would do is he would send, if Yamamoto decided it was time to go and enter the battlefield once he got his bankai back, Yhwach would send all the Stern Ritter towards Yama, like try to take him out, because Yhwach's main objective is to get to the Royal Palace. At this point, he's not even worried about Sarete. So he's more or less just waiting for Ichigo to crack through that barrier so then he can get up there and handle the business that he has with Zero Division and the Soul King. Now, I think what we would see from Yamamoto on the battlefield in Sarete in the second invasion would be absolutely incredible. Guys, there isn't a Stern Ritter on the battlefield that could even touch Yamamoto. I mean, Asnot, the Fear, that's not working on Yamamoto. We saw him completely handle Asnot, Basby, the other weird-looking Stern Ritter. Nah, there we go. But we saw Yamamoto completely handle those Stern Ritter. If it wasn't for Basby, they would have lost their lives right there. So if Yama wanted to, with all these Stern Ritter barreling towards him to try to more or less stall for Yhwach to go to the Royal Palace, we'd see a battle between a full-powered Yamamoto and multiple different Stern Ritter. We could even have Yamamoto be the one that steps in and saves Kenpachi at the end of the fight versus Grimmy. Heck, let's even talk about Yamamoto versus Grimmy real quick. I think that battle with a full-powered Yamamoto would end quicker than it could begin. Yes, I know Grimmy is extremely hacks, but this is the head captain we're talking about. Guys, he is so, I can't stress to you how monstrously powerful Yamamoto already was, even without his arms. So yeah, he'd be an absolute demon on the battlefield. Talking about the animations that I want to eventually animate for these what-ifs, this is another one of them. Full-powered Yamamoto, just like in the painting that Kuraku saw when he was a kid, but stronger. And he's taking out his rage on all the Stern Ritter. Now, I'm going to kind of start fast-forwarding through the story a little bit, but Yhwach, like I said, sends the Stern Ritter to try to stall Yamamoto. Now, I'm not saying that Yamamoto could beat an almighty Yhwach. I'm saying that he would give a pre-almighty Yhwach an incredible battle. And at this point, Yhwach, he doesn't have time for that. His objection is to get to the Royal Palace. Now, as far as the head captain, if he saw Yhwach going to the Royal Palace, I think he may decide to stay in Sarete, at least until all the remaining Stern Ritter were taken out. I think he would have faith in Zero Division, at least as far as covering the Soul King. He would be like, there's no way that, like, Yhwach gets past Ichibe, at least in my opinion. Who knows? Maybe he doesn't have any faith. But I do think he would want to stay and protect Sarete at least. Now, he does eventually make his way up there, and we're going to talk about that. But we have to talk about a few things that happen in between those moments. So, like I said, we've got Yhwach, and he's going to the Royal Palace, and any other remaining Stern Yama's going to take down. So, like, Giselle, yeah, she's completely annihilated. Any of her zombies, I don't see the head captain having much remorse for the zombies that were created. Can you just imagine Yamamoto just looks at all the Bambis and he's like, yeah, be gone. Whew! And just burns them all. Anyways, I could talk about this portion forever. It's a whole nother video in its own. Yamamoto versus the second invasion Stern Ritters. But we have to move on. One thing I want to talk about is let's fast forward to when the Soul Kings actually fall in. Yamamoto's probably, in shock, like, dang, those idiots, they let that happen. They let the Soul Palace fall. Yamamoto would just be absolutely shaking his head. Anyways, things pretty much remain the same like they did in the story as far as Ukitake become using the Mimi Hagi. All that, we are going to make a video on that. I cannot wait. But all that happens, and the thing I want to talk about is whether or not Head Yamamoto releases Aizen. Now, this is a big deal because if Head Captain Yamamoto doesn't listen to Kuraku, when Kuraku goes up to him and is like, hey, we have to release Sosuke from Mugen, he could help us. Like, if Yamamoto's thick-headed and is like, no way, we're absolutely not doing it, which I could totally see him not doing it, then let's just put it this way. Soul Society loses the war. Because without Sosuke Aizen, Soul Society would have fell to Yhwach. He plays such an integral role in the end of the story that if Yamamoto didn't swallow his pride and agree with Kuraku to let Sosuke Aizen out, then the Soul Society would be doomed. But I want to know from you guys in the comments below, do you think Yamamoto would let Sosuke Aizen onto the battlefield? Do you think he would release him from Mugen? That's such an integral part of the story. Like I said, if Yamamoto decides not to release Aizen, Soul Society is doomed. But for the sake of this what if, we're going to go ahead and say that Kuraku says what he needs to say to convince Yamamoto into releasing Aizen. That is a big part of the what if as far as Yamamoto being back. He could doom the Soul Society with this decision. But moving forward, I kind of want to fast forward through some of the smaller things and actually get Yamamoto up into the Royal Palace where he can do battle with some of the schutzstaffel. So let's fast forward a little bit to where in the normal story, it was Kuraku and everyone that was left storming the Royal Palace, and then they get stopped by the schutzstaffel. But in this hypothetical, Yamamoto is with all of them. So Kuraku, he still goes off and he fights Lil, and we still get that incredible battle. But the battle that Head Captain Yamamoto becomes a part of is the battle with Gerard Valkyrie. As much as I would have loved to discuss Yamamoto versus every single member of the schutzstaffel, we would be here all day because I could talk about it forever. But for this particular story, for this particular hypothetical, I chose Yamamoto to be in the group that goes against Gerard Valkyrie. I think a hypothetical battle like this would be absolutely amazing to see. Head Captain Yamamoto at full power with his bankai against Gerard Valkyrie. In my opinion, the strongest Stern Ritter and the strongest Schutzstaffel, and the biggest challenge as far as anyone besides Yhwach. This battle would be absolutely amazing. I keep harping on this. This is another one that I would love to animate. Now, we would be seeing Yamamoto whip out his bankai again, and it would be absolutely incredible. Now, this is where I think this battle takes a turn, and I want you guys to put your input in on this, because this is how I think Head Captain Yamamoto could deal with Gerard Valkyrie. Now, we've got Gerard, and he's in his giant form at this point, and this battle's an absolute spectacle. We have flames. The Royal Palace at this point is just like when Sarete was when Yamamoto activated his bankai. People's lips are cracking. The atmosphere's just more or less just a massive heat. Now, what Yamamoto figures out fairly quickly that Gerard Valkyrie is pretty much like a golem. He sees that center Quincy medallion in the middle of Gerard Valkyrie's battle quite often during the battle. Every time he does damage, he sees that that's the center of regeneration. So I think what Yamamoto would do with his massive, massive power is he would target that Quincy medallion in the middle of Gerard Valkyrie. He would completely disintegrate it along with Gerard Valkyrie, thus stopping the regeneration. In my opinion, Head Captain Yamamoto versus Gerard Valkyrie ends in a W for Head Captain Yamamoto. But I want to know from you guys, do you agree? How do you think he would do against Gerard Valkyrie? How do you think he would do against other members of the schutzstaffel? This is the part of the hypothetical where we kind of have free reign, because this, like I said, these battles would be absolutely incredible, and seeing the head captain in these battles would just be an absolute dream. Just a side note, with Kamamura still being alive in this hypothetical, if he were to survive until the schutzstaffel, if he survived the second invasion and all that, I think it'd be absolutely awesome to see Kamamura's bankai try to go up against Gerard Valkyrie. Now, obviously, I know Gerard Valkyrie would probably decimate Kamamura's bankai, but it'd still be a ton of fun to see giant versus giant. Now, anyways, progressing into the story, if this was a manga or an anime, the head captain would kind of go on the back burner at this point. We'd be focusing more on Ichigo and his upcoming battle with Yhwach and all that, but the battles would still be going on everywhere in the Royal Palace. Obviously, we'd have Kisuke's battle, all that would be going on, but having the head captain up on the Royal Palace just helps the Soul Society so much more. Now, guys, let's fast forward. I could talk about the battles up on the Royal Palace all day, but we do need to fast forward into this hypothetical what if. Now, this is where I kind of need your guys' help, because at some point before the ending, before the defeat of Yhwach, at some point Yamamoto is going to get his rematch with Yhwach. Now, I think this rematch would be extremely emotionally charged. It'd be extremely impactful. Now, where I envision it happening is when Sosuke Aizen addresses Yhwach close to the final battle, where it's just Sosuke and Yhwach, and he's like, "Welcome to my Soul Society." Everyone else is following suit. They're coming down for the final battle with Yhwach. This is where I would insert Yama, where he would have his final battle with Yhwach along with Sosuke Aizen. What a twist that would be. Anyways, this battle, it would be an absolute spectacle to see. Yhwach with his almighty, obviously Yama with his bankai, both his arms. We could have Yhwach kind of have some dialogue like, "Now this is the Genryusai Yamamoto I remember. Ruthless, both arms, incredibly strong bankai." I think this would be so much fun to see this battle between Yhwach and the head captain. Now, as awesome as this battle would be, and as awesome as it would be to see the head captain battle Yhwach again, this, in our hypothetical, this is where the head captain ultimately meets his end. Yes, in his battle with Yhwach, before Ichigo and Renji arrive, head captain Yamamoto falls to Yhwach. But in this battle, he goes down with so much more dignity. The battle is, like, quite frankly, just much more badass than the first one. It wasn't a fake Yhwach clone. In this battle, he finally gets his final fight with Yhwach, and like I said, it is an absolute spectacle, and finally the most legendary man in Sarete finally falls. But like I said, this battle is so much more monumental and just a complete spectacle. Now, with Yamamoto gone, that kind of wraps up our what if. story would continue, and ultimately Ichigo would destroy Yhwach with the help of Aizen and Renji, and then this is when Kuraku would ultimately take up the mantle as the next head captain. And that pretty much wraps up our hypothetical, exploring what if Head Captain Yamamoto survived the first invasion. The answer is so much changes. The story, although it was extremely exciting in the original, I think having the head captain involved would have been so much more fun. You guys tell me, do you agree with me? This is just how I think it would go. I want to hear your input in the comments. Do you think Yamamoto would heal his arm? How do you think he would fare against the schutzstaffel? Do you agree with me? Do you think he would ultimately let Aizen out of Mugen? Guys, these are the things I want to discuss with you. I want to discuss the story that we just told. It was absolutely incredible. In this story, the head captain finally got the shine that I think he deserved in the regular story. This man is an absolute monster. Tell me in the comments below, do you think he's the most badass old man in anime or storytelling in general, or do you disagree with me? Guys, this story was absolutely incredible, and it was so nice being back. Anime Bar TV took a little mini vacation. There wasn't a what if last week, but this one made up for it because, like I said, it was absolutely phenomenal, and I had a blast. But like I said, guys, don't forget to be very interactive in the comments. There's nothing I love more than talking Bleach with you guys. In this case, talking the head captain with you guys. How do you think the story would go if you were writing it? How would you have changed the hypothetical? I want to know down in the comments below. Guys, our next what if is going to be absolutely insane. I don't want to give away too much, but it involves Aizen, the Quincy King, and much, much more. But yeah, guys, stay tuned for the next one. Until then, this is Sterling signing out. This was What If Head Captain Yamamoto Survived the First Quincy Invasion.